Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
All right, ladies, we are in the next portion of our discussion. So I imagine you all have kudos and questions for each other. So let's go ahead and unmute yourselves and let's see where we go from there. How's that? And then I can prompt with some questions as well.
Can I suggest that Gloria might have a question, because she's a very wise woman and she might want to ask one of us a question.
Okay.
Putting you in the spot, my friend Gloria. Unmute.
You can unmute yourself, Gloria.
Thank you. Oh, you never put people on the spot, Judith. I would like to ask the entire panel if there's anything that they could share with us that they wouldn't mind sharing has been one of the most challenging points in their own journey of finding their own voice. And how did they overcome that challenge? And I realized they could probably talk for another 10 minutes just on that answer, but that's always inspiring to all of us because we all have these amazing journeys. And I know we have more than one point in the road where we have to make a decision or we have to somehow grow through that moment, if I use Narissa's term for that. So yes, that would be my question.
I'm happy to kick off and answer that. And I think you said it right, Gloria, in a way that I don't, like, at least for myself, I don't believe there was one particular moment. I think it's a accumulation of a number of moments. But if I think back in terms of that pivotal moment for me, or what kind of changed for me, was a moment of really knowing that I could either live my truth and be who I am and find my voice and find all of that pieces of me that was taken away, or I could continue living that shelled version of myself. And it was that moment of deciding that even though it's going to be really hard to do what I'm about to do, but I couldn't no longer live a lie. And I'd got to a point where I'm like, it's not worth living the way I'm living right now to satisfy and please everyone else around me. And, while I was doing that, I came across as being really happy, and, people would think I was really happy, but inside I was in turmoil and in conflict. And it was only when I was able to, realize that and make peace with that and acknowledge this is who I am, and use my voice in a way that it gives authenticity to who I am, and use my voice in a way that, that everything that I've been through and grown through forms part of the journey that then becomes my story, and I acknowledge it in that growth. I think it was only then that I realized that I could use my voice for many more other greater things that is possible. And that's where possibility lies.
Gloria, I think if I was to go back to the first event, because there has been many for me as well, but I'm born one of 4 girls, all born in January, and I'm number 2. And I remember probably when I was around 10, taking the leap to change and transform, because all around me was extroverts, and I was a nervy, anxious, nail-biting child, filled with self-doubt and fear. I'd had bullying in primary school, the whole shebang. And I remember just one night looking at my younger sister dancing away to ABBA, and that I was too frightened to join in. But in my heart, I really wanted to dance. I really wanted to sing. And I was happy to be her backup dancer, but I was on the sideline. I wasn't there. And she was just letting loose, dancing, dancing queen, whatever was on. And the other extrovert was on doing it as well. And there I was just sort of going, I wish I could, but I can't. And so I made a decision that night to start to expand, and then the rest is history, because now everyone perceives me as an extrovert, but actually I'm a born introvert. And I now teach how to do both and the value of both, and how you have to have a blended multi-experience to be really successful in life.
I'd like to add a little bit of my experience, I suppose, as everyone has already mentioned. It is a series of leaps. It's a series of moments where you go, am I brave enough to do this? And for me, I think one of the earliest ones was when I was first asked to direct a show. And I think I was in my late teens, and I'd been involved in theatre for a little while, not particularly long. I had been doing singing and choreography, but then they said, oh, we think you should direct because, you know, you've done this other stuff already. And I was so out of my depth. And I think there are times in our life when, you know, I think it's Richard Branson who says, you know, say yes and then work out how to do it. And that was absolutely that moment for me where I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then I had to work out, well, how do I do this thing? How do I manage people at such a young age? How do I get people to align to a common vision? And it actually has become pretty much the thread of my entire life to align people to a common vision, because I'd spent years as a director following that. But it was that moment where I said yes, and then I went, I have no idea how to do it. And I was terrified because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to be that vulnerable that people would question my validity, because God knows I questioned it enough anyway. I questioned whether I was good enough to do this. But it was an amazing learning curve for me at that moment, because it was such a huge challenge. And everyone around me had so much advice of how I should do it. And I listened to that person, and then I listened to that person and that person, and it was all conflicting advice. And in the end, I actually did what Narissa has been speaking about today. I actually just stopped and I listened to myself. And I said, well, what can I bring to this party? What can I bring to this moment that nobody else can, because of my experience and because of the way that I work? And so I think for all of us, as we move through our life, there are those times when we can say, we need to stop and pause. We've all talked about that today, where we have to stop and pause and ask ourselves, what do I bring to the party? What do I bring to life that I and I alone have got the capacity to do? And I think that that's what I've lived my own life by, that every time that there's been a challenge, I've stopped and asked myself, what am I bringing to the show?
Lovely. Well, I'll add my tuppence worth, and I think all of you have given wonderful wisdom, which I wouldn't expect any less of. The quote that comes to my mind about finding my voice, besides the story I told, because I'm also shy inside, like Trina, is the book by Susan Jeffers called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I took that with me when I went around Australia in '99 with a girlfriend, 4 or 5 years after my first husband had died tragically. And it really made a difference. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And then the other very famous American president who said, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. So it seems that all of us found our voice when we were able to be authentic and brave, and we faced our fears and did it, as Simone just said. And for me, it was at the age of 58, retiring from a salary and security and jumping into teaching public speaking without real qualifications, just passion and desire, and cheeky enough to start contacting schools and getting gigs with perseverance, patience, and persistence. So besides everything else, one of the ways of finding your voice is in the words of Graham, I just forget his surname, it's L something, who was a solicitor who ended up in prison, is never give up. that capacity to be the clown that once you're knocked over, you can get up again. Once things go bad, to then get up again. Because while you're breathing, there's an opportunity to change and to start again, whether it's through failure at school, bankruptcy, being scared to tell your family you're Indian and gay, doesn't matter what it is. Once she spoke up and her sister said, I accept you, wasn't it? That was the words. Yeah, it was memorable. That Narissa got that courage to keep going on that journey. So never give up, feel the fear and do it anyway. And there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Yeah.
Wow. It was wonderful to go on the journey into those points with all of you. But if I could just share one moment of what, in the context of whatever the fear might have been, whatever the challenge might have been, there were two things that stood out from each of what you've shared just now. Number one is that pause, that stillness, that listening to the inner voice, the inner guidance. And the second thing is never for us to diminish or dismiss the power of making a decision. You each made, we all, I join you and Deb, I'm sure does too, on this journey of, it's a decision, isn't it? It's an intention of whether or not we're going to stay stuck or we're going to take that leap with that faith and that courage and all the aspects of human evolution. And also just an interesting thing is, I don't know about Narissa, but she certainly could be in any theater troupe that I've been involved with. I started theater at the age of 14, and have been a director producer for most of my life of children's theater production. So look at the theater aspect of all of us too. You know, that drama and that storytelling and how it's really brought amazing things out of each of us. So thank you. It's been a wonderful chance to hear your stories in these ways.
It has been, and I appreciate it very much. I wonder, without this speaking in generalities, perhaps, what was most challenging person or situation that you've coached someone through that they just really, with your encouragement and assistance, broke through? Know what I mean? What, a success story, I guess, that would inspire, that someone might look normally at that and say, wow, that I would never have even tried, or I wouldn't have thought that person could succeed. But you've obviously worked with hundreds and thousands of people. So for each of you, can you think of one that was just really persevered, or maybe just decided to take the leap?
I remember when I was 25 having my spiritual awakening, and prior to that moment I was fearful of the world. I couldn't believe that children starved in Africa. I couldn't believe that babies died at birth. I couldn't believe that people shot other people. I couldn't believe that there was wars, and I just was so focused on all the pain in the world, and I could not understand why all that existed. And when I had my spiritual awakening, I suddenly understood, and it just allowed my whole soul to relax, to focus on what I could control, which was myself and my own experience, what I could influence, and I could learn to grow to influence others, but I couldn't control others. I could only control myself and then influence others. And so from that day onwards, I was refocused. And I think the universe is an incredible refocuser. And if you're off path, you'll be banged back on. So every time I feel out of whack or out of flow with the universe and co-creating with them, you get gently, or if you're not listening, you'll abruptly be put back on path. And so ever since then, I've been able to just focus on my own stuff and my own journey. And really, that's the point of it. It's not about changing the world millions at a time. It's actually about if we all did the inner work and we all had our own spiritual awakening and continued to learn and grow, just like the meaning of life is to learn and grow. The purpose of life is to help others. So through helping others, we learn and grow. And if we all just do our own inner work, then the light is on. And that's what the awakening, the paradigm shift, that's what we're in right now, is everyone's light is being turned on. Some of us have come here with light turned on to help others learn and grow, but it is the big awakening. And that's what we're here to do. Everyone just turn your light on and the world will change in your lifetime.
Absolutely.
So true, so true. When I think about a similar situation, or a journey that we've grown through, I think of mine with my partner, my wife now. We were 8 weeks into our relationship. It was one of my first kind of relationships out in the open, being out. And we were 8 weeks into that relationship when she had a severe motorbike accident. And at that point, I had a choice or a decision whether to stay or leave. And I didn't know what the future was going to hold for us. But in that moment, I knew I was in love with this woman and I wanted to stay. And I stayed. And neither of us knew what that start of that journey was going to be like. What eventuated from then was a series of 22 surgeries. And then getting to a point where we were then told that she needed to amputate her leg. And just being on that journey has taught both of us so much about ourselves and both about each other as well, in terms of, the roles that we each play as individuals, as a couple, how our relationship has grown through that. But what's even more interesting than that physical journey has been the mental health side of it. Because my wife also lives with schizoaffective disorder and PTSD. And the journey of that has been far more challenging than any of the surgical journeys that we've been through, because mental health, as we all know, is so important and crucial right now in terms of mental health and well-being. And while the physical aspect can be something that we can all see and relate to, mentally it's often so much harder to challenge, because we can't really see what the person is actually experiencing. And being on that journey as her carer has taught us both so much over the last 10 years, a journey of learning, growing from denial to now a place of acceptance and hope, and understanding that while this mental health condition exists, it doesn't control our whole lives, and we have the ability to create a life around it, and to really continue to grow and thrive individually and in our relationship as well, and be there to support other people through sharing our stories. And it's got us to the point now where we're just in the process of launching a new book called A Different Reality, which launches this month, which is about our journey of growing through our mental health journey together. So yeah, more on that later. But that's kind of been, when I think, Deb, about a journey of learning and growing and really supporting each other, I think that one is for me.
Wow. I'm going to jump in because you've just inspired me, Narissa, to be more open than I might have been. So thank you. My perseverance point came unexpectedly almost on the 17th of August, 1994, when my soulmate, father of my children, committed suicide. And I suddenly found myself as a widow, as someone in grief and all the stages of grieving that they write about, which are true, but they happen all over the place and in a certain order. But because I had a 14 and a 16-year-old who were also in grief and shock and anger and blame, I had to keep going. And so I worked full time, I tutored, I mothered, I turned my home into a boarding house because I needed more money to manage. And I'd shop at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning and then get up and swim 3 mornings a week at my school. And never, ever occurred to me to give up. Why not? Because it just wasn't going to be helpful. I had children to bring up. I had a job to do. I had friends that kept inviting us every Sabbath for a meal. And my faith in God helped me get through. And that spiritual side that both Katrina and others have mentioned, I know Gloria is definitely into the healing and universal power of God and love. So my message is, it doesn't really matter which brick wall, which bike accident, which put choice, if you want to be happy. And it's about happiness and love, just by the way. Nobody's mentioned that word love. And it's love that got Narissa through, and it's probably love that got Katrina through, even though she didn't mention it. But God's love and our human love of each other and our family should be the inspiration. Now, just for those of you who feel that you're not loved, don't even think about it, because as Gloria, and it's her story, it starts with you loving yourself, and then everything changes. So love, perseverance, belief, faith, and a bloody good sense of humor is what will get you through, because without being able to laugh at yourself, your purpleness in the world, who are you?
I love it. Thank you so much. Before I forget, and we're not bringing us to a conclusion yet, but would love to extend an invitation to each of you to consider being on the council for the World United. These conferences are going on in every country around the world. So there's a tremendous connection happening of people of the same mind and lifting of consciousness. So we will send you information about that, and please do consider, because you would all be just wonderful additions and assets to that. So where are we on questions? I noticed that Narissa suggested y'all should stay in touch with each other until 102. I think that's an excellent suggestion. And is there anything at this point, like a finalization, that each one of you would like to make, kind of a summary after hearing a little more discussion, or if you have other questions that you want to pose to one another?
I always love that. If not you, then who?
Yeah.
If not you, then who? Because self-doubt, I love how Narissa, really brought that up for all of us around self-doubt. And every time I start a journey with a client, it's always the same. Why me? Who am I to teach? What have I got to say? And all the usual. And I say to them, how many times do you think I've heard that? If not you, then who? Somebody's got to do that work. And you've been brought onto this earth to do it at this moment in time. So if not you, then who? And Narissa, congratulations on the book. That is amazing. I congratulate you for doing the rigor, because everything will come in and around that book now. That book will open doors that you never even saw coming. So I look forward to you becoming Australia's #1 female speaker, and then go global. You are truly very, very charismatic. You've got all that you need right now to just go global. You are extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And Judith, I didn't expect you to be critiquing us and giving us this beautiful positive feedback. It was so amazing. Now I'm going to expect that every time I go on a panel. I would love that to happen every time. Thank you.
I hope you didn't see it as a critique. It was actually meant to be the way that each of us use similar and different ways to inspire our audience. And I think the reason I actually threw away what I was going to say and just spoke in the moment about first the three of you was because I think that is one of the secrets of speaking, is to allow your audience to feel you're talking just to them, just to you. And that when each of you got lovely feedback about the way that you spoke, and that is part of my career, is to give feedback, I felt that you would feel connected and included and important. And there's nothing more important than making your audience feel that you're speaking to each one of them individually. And I think you do that through being authentic and being yourself. Now, I'd like to finish with two things. One is I'm also writing a book, which is taking a long time, and I've interviewed Gloria for it. And it's a series of X number of interviews. So far, there's about 15 or 20 on different ages from 30 to 90s of people who I know who have persevered themselves, picked themselves up and are considered successful in all sorts of ways, financially, spiritually, or whatever, to help young people stay. And I've got a title I don't like called Hang In There, but it's not strong enough, and I'd probably love some publisher to help us. But it's about these interviews, and most of them are giving their emails to be followed up about young people not giving up in the light of COVID or in the light of their careers taking a different turn because they thought of going into careers that have taken a downward turn during the coronavirus. And we know things will never be exactly the same. But the three sayings that I want to finish with that have helped my life always about our Jewish sage Hillel, who said three things. And the translation in English goes, if I am not for myself, who will be? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?
I love it. That's brilliant. And I think that leads so beautifully from what Katrina said was, if not you, who? If not now, when? So I would like to add, and it just popped into my head because, you know, my talk was completely improvised in the moment. And I knew that there was something that I wanted to share, and I'm what you would know as a heart channel. So I channel but I'm an active participant in that. So, you know, the wisdom is active. And what's just popped into me now to share with you and everyone listening is to share a little technique from the world of improv. So all of you theatre lovers will know this as well. And that is a very simple statement, which is the yes and. So if you are feeling in the moment that you don't have an answer, or you are on that threshold, you're on the cusp of a greater understanding and you're doubting yourself, as we all do. You know, we often give up just before that last gasp, before that final hurrah. We go, oh, I've been doing this for so long and I'm over it and nothing seems to be happening. So when we're in that moment, again, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, or say to yourself, yes, this is the situation, and what else is possible? So the yes and is a beautiful way to actually expand your thinking, to expand the possibilities, to expand the potential for the answers to come into your world. So ask yourself, or say to yourself, if not me, who? If not now, when? And what else is possible?
It's so amazing, like just listening to everyone, because it almost feels like, you know, when we were kids and you play that game where someone starts with the word and then you keep making a story, it just feels like it just is all come together. And I personally have never met any of you before. You know, we might have crossed paths differently, but just to come into a space and just speak from, none of us knew what each other was going to speak about, and to just come here and see how each of our messages have kind of intertwined with each other, you know, from pausing, from, you know, being who we are, from speaking, from coming from that place of authenticity, from knowing that we're more. It's so amazing to see how it's all just weaved together today. And I think that's kind of, you know, a greater being and a power and a universe and an energy that kind of brings us all together. And even what started out as a, you know, thread that you started, Katrina, around, you know, if not you, who? And Judah went, if not now, when, you know, and what else? And, you know, I'd be really leaving you with that question to, you know, where to from now? Where to from now? If not this, then what? Where are we going? Where are you leading into the end of 2021, into 2022? What does that realm of possibility, a life of abundance, look like for you? And when you think on that journey, and when you start about that, always come from a place of knowing that you are enough. You are enough. You always have been, you always will be. And now it's your time, and your place is now to go and create whatever possibility that you want to do. So I want to leave that with you today.
That's beautiful.
Very, very good. This has been wonderful. This has been fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing from the heart, and just really the synchronicity of this. And I sent out an email, I think, on the timing that had all of your emails on it. So you should be able to have that to be able to stay in touch. And do we have anything else, or we're got about 15 minutes for a time slot? Yeah, Judith.
We've all been so positive and wonderful. I would like to ask everybody what she is afraid of.
I would love to start. I've always been afraid of not living up to my full potential and dying not knowing what I'm made of. So that just freaks me out, always has. And that's what's driven me forward, is to go, okay, well, I've done that now. That's great. Now what's next? What's possible? And just keep going, because once I die and leave this particular body and the Katrina Friel is gone, the personality is gone, my soul is eternal, I know that, but the personality of Katrina and having the Katrina experience, I just want to know what she's made of. And so you've got to really run that Ferrari as hard as you can for as long as you can, and really see what can you do in the short little moment, the little blink that we are. That's what scares me, not knowing.
Who else wants to jump in?
I think for me, you know, what sometimes scares you or scares me is the thing of kind of getting to a point where we feel like, you know, we've done it all, or we know it all, like, you know, and you lose that intense purpose of living, that, you know, that joy of waking up every morning and going, oh, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, and that kind of sense of gratitude. And for me, the one way that, you know, I deal with that fear is by always practicing gratitude, because if we always come back to a sense of gratitude, of knowing, you know, that everything around us is happening for a reason and a purpose, and, you know, it drives us, and everything is there for a place that needs to happen, coming back to just being grateful every day for, you know, the one more day that we're able to wake up and show up as ourselves and play in a way that we want to. I think that kind of eliminates that fear of what might happen if that did happen.
I think for me, it's a little like what Katrina said, and what actually popped into my head is another quote, which is about, you know, I don't want to die with my song unsung. You know, I want to, moving back into my metaphor of music and the pausing and the notes, I want to have that full orchestration of my life. I want to hear every note that I'm capable of, but not only of what I'm capable of, but what I want to be able to share with the world, to be of service to the world, to be of service to the greater good, to the unity of the world. And so for me, it's about, I think what I'm afraid of is like missing some of those notes, or dying with that passion unlived, of not being, or having that passion just diminish. You know, I, like yourselves, you know, I plan to live to a really ripe old age. And so for me, I think what drives me is that creativity, and is to express it. You know, my lifelong purpose and passion has been about the embodiment and the expression of self. and that comes out of my creativity. So for me, what I'm afraid of is losing that passion, losing that capacity to hear and embody and embrace all of those notes of my life.
Oh, lovely. I'll put in my tuppence worth. Mine is probably much more global at this point. What I'm afraid of is that too many leaders, and we're seeing it in Edinburgh, and we saw it recently at the other conference, are not able to have a vision of a world of green and harmony and peace. And that too many leaders are into power, control, or, you know, in Afghanistan, we're seeing beginnings of blood passing in Yemen and in parts of Sudan right now in the world. And at this big global conference, too many of the first world countries cannot see what global warming is doing right now to some third world countries. And my fear, I think, is that some maniac like the North Korean leader or some other idiot in Iran or somewhere, will start to destroy the world before we even get a chance to love each other and repair the world, and that all of our love and energy for each other and all the goodness, we might just be the next group to go extinct because of stupidity and selfishness and power. So it's beyond my control as an individual, but I wish we could shake them all and say, can't you see that we're one little world? We don't necessarily need to go and live on Mars, great American billionaires. We need to fix it here, and we need to fix it now. Wake up. It's one small planet. And I know Gloria is saying her prayers universally sending for that. But please, everybody, tell the leaders it's not about power and control and religious persecution. It's about love and faith and belief and family. We're one little family of humans.
Absolutely. I think, go ahead.
Judith, on that note, I think that's why this sort of festival has been put together, because there's so much of that fear mongering out there, and the majority of people that are not lit yet are focusing on that. And the idea of us being here is the light is on and that light emanates out. Now, what we're trying to do at the moment is get to the tipping point. And actually, we're very close to the tipping point. If you have a look around at the change that the world's been having, you know, pedophiles being brought down, Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, all of this is showing you that the old ways are crumbling down, and change takes time. The thing about humans is the only way to change us and our behavior is through pain. So the universe has created pain, and we will go through pain. We are seeing the fires, the floods, the wars, all the things that are happening, because the only way to make humans move and change is through pain. Now, when we get to the other side of this, we are going to create something from the ground zero. And what we're going to create is up to us. But first, we have to crash down the old systems and the old ways of doing things. And that's going to be painful. And that's what we're sitting in now. Just allow the universe with all their wisdom to do it, to do the work. We're just here to witness. We're here to learn and grow. And I promise you, in our lifetime, in a way, not so, I mean, we won't see the big picture in this lifetime, but we will see the change, and we'll see the collapsing of the old ways, and we'll start to be there. We're here to hold space for the new, so that each light that's brought on to come to us, to come together in love, will eradicate all that's going on. So again, Judith mentioned it. Don't focus on what you can't control. If it was your destiny to be working on greenhouse gases and parliament and political or any sort of agenda, you would be out there doing that. If you are not, then what is your destiny? Do that. Don't focus on what you can't control. I can't control the ice melting in Antarctica. So my mind and energy is not focused there. My mind, energy, love, and support is focused on what I can have the biggest impact on, and that is whoever is put in front of you. So just serve those that are put in front of you and just leave the rest of it to the experts who are on the ground doing it. And trust the universe. She's got this. And I tell you what, this little earth ain't going nowhere. She wants us here. She just wants us to evolve with her and to reach her level of vibration at the time. So she's growing, we're growing, and we'll all arrive there at the same time.
Just keep growing through.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, women. Well, there's just a few minutes before the beginning of the next session. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I cannot thank you enough. And totally from my heart. Bless all of you. Hopefully, I'll get to stay in touch with you too. I would love that.
And thank you, Deb, for
Thank you
moderating
so
and
much.
for your equality and your introductions, even though we wrote them ourselves. And also, I'd just like to thank everyone who was present, both in the screen and globally, because the people who are coming in, once I grab a toilet break and some lunch, I would like, if we're allowed, to stay on and hear yours, because I'm floating about 4 inches off the ground right now. And that's why I think Katrina's message is so important, that the one word we haven't used, and I want to finish my bit with it, is the word hope. If we keep our hope up, then almost everything is possible. The Holocaust survivors, a lot of what they had in common, the ones who managed to live through hell, was that they never gave up hope. They could see a time when the cruelty and the death camps and the chimneys would shut, and that the world would see what was happening in Germany and other camps. So I can't help bringing my own religion into it because it's who I am. And so what I would like to say is that we not only have hope, but to use some of the words of our speakers, we have choices. And the choices we make are going to determine not just where we're going, but all the people that we love and have contact with are going too. So I wish all of you who are online with us nothing but joy, love, hope, health, and therefore happiness.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Thank you, Judith.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank
Enjoy
you so
the rest
much.
of your day. And thank you so
Yes.
much, Deb. Really
I think
appreciate it.
you all should have the live streaming link that's been sent to you. If not, email me and we'll get it. Okay. All right.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Lovely
Have a
to meet
wonderful
you
rest of
all.
your day.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we allowed to stay on?
I think so. I think that what they want is for speakers to go through the live streaming link now, but I'm fine with you staying on.
Right. Well, I'm
If-
just going to go a quick toilet
Yeah, yeah.
stop and come back.
I'm
You're going to
good.
go, Gloria. Thank you
I'm-
for joining us, darling. I'll see you at
Yes,
3.
thank you, Gloria.